Hello, chess.com. Welcome to your daily video puzzle analysis. If you haven't had a chance to solve the puzzle, now's a great chance to pause the video and decide how you would play as white. We find ourselves in a position with even material, but there are important differences to notice. Black's knight is on the same diagonal as Black's king, so this definitely suggests pinning potential, especially as our bishop is ready to move to d4. The other important detail to notice is that Black's king is on the other side of the board as White's passed pawn. White's king, on the other hand, is blocking Black's passed pawn and is able to capture it if the timing is right. Typically, we like to show the puzzle solution first, but it's important to understand why we have to go through the trouble of showing off our endgame technique in the first place. Why can't White just play bishop d4? Pinning Black's knight to the king. If Black plays king f6, we can play queen takes e5 check, transposing to our puzzle solution. As always, we do not want to assume our opponent will willingly help us solve this puzzle. We need to stay alert for Black's most forcing moves. Instead of passively defending, Black can counterattack with queen a3 check. White's king cannot capture the pawn, so it's forced to retreat to the second rank, let's say with king d2. No matter how White responds, Black's winning idea is the same. Queen d3 check, forking our king and bishop when Black will capture the bishop on the next turn with a winning position. Once we realize the path of least resistance does not work, we need to look for other options. As we look for those other options, it's important not to give up on the pattern you noticed, the alignment of Black's knight and king. We do have the forcing move queen takes e5 check, which could liquidate the game into a king and pawn endgame. After careful consideration, if you chose queen takes e5 check, excellent decision. After the forcing queen takes e5 check, bishop d4. If Black plays queen takes d4 check, after king takes d4, White's pawn is only 4 more moves away from promoting. And since Black's king cannot enter the square of the pawn, which we find by connecting the corners a4, e4, e8, and a8, this calculation shortcut allows us to quickly evaluate the position as winning for White. Black cannot prevent White from promoting the pawn. Instead of queen takes d4, Black defended more stubbornly with king f6. Since Black's queen is still pinned to the king, the endgame mantra, no rush, can be a great help. There is no need to capture the pinned queen immediately, so we can gain a key tempo by playing a5. Black now forces our hand by moving out of the pin with king e6. We definitely don't want to let Black keep the queen on the board, so the next step in our puzzle solution is bishop takes e5. If Black is kind enough to play king takes e5, we can win the game immediately with a6, when the passed pawn cannot be stopped. Once again, Black wanted to defend with the resilience of a Saturday puzzle and played king d7. We now reach a critical point in the puzzle. Even though White is up a piece, our pawn's promotion square is the opposite color of our dark squared bishop. Since our pawn is a rook pawn, if Black's king can reach the corner, blocking the promotion square, we will never be able to force Black's king out of the corner, so the position is drawn. If we play king takes c4, hoping that Black will play king c8 when we can play a6, preventing Black's king from reaching the corner, unfortunately, Black can play king c6, threatening to move to b7 and will then reach the corner on the next move. The only way to try and stop that idea is to play a6, when Black will simply play king b6, and our pawn cannot be defended. This means our only chance to win the game is to play a6. If Black plays king c8, White's pawn and bishop work together to prevent the king from reaching the corner. So Black's only defensive try is king c6, threatening king b6 when we would lose our pawn on the next turn. If we advance the pawn to a7, Black is able to draw the game with king b7. We absolutely cannot allow Black's king to reach the b6 square, so we must play bishop d4. By process of elimination, we're continuing to keep our winning chances alive. Black's plan is thwarted once again, so Black shifts gears and plays king c7. Once again, if we play a7, Black can play king b7 when the king can reach the corner with a drawn position. And if we allow king b8 on the next turn, the game is drawn. Since we need to prevent king b8, by process of elimination, white needs to play bishop a7. We've reached the end of the puzzle. Black's king cannot reach the promotion square, so white is winning. If you made it to this point, congratulations! You demonstrated great patience and found an instructive path to victory. If the game continued, what would happen if black played king c6, hoping to reach the b5 square to threaten our pawn? After king takes c4, king c7, and king c5, white's king marches up the board, so after king c8, king c6, black's king is forced away from the b7 square with king d8. There are multiple moves that win, but a simple way to eliminate any complications is to play king b7. Black cannot prevent white from moving the bishop and promoting the pawn into a queen, so this is completely winning for white. In this position, it was critical to play bishop d4, preventing black's king from using the b6 square. Instead of bishop d4, let's see what I mean by the wrong-colored bishop in the rook-pawn endgame with bishop b8, preparing to support the advance of the pawn after king b6, a7, and king b7. The game is now drawn as black's king has access to the promotion square. After king takes c4, king a8, black's king will simply remain in the corner, dancing back and forth between a8 and b7. If we had a light-squared bishop, it would have been a simple case of protecting the promotion square with the bishop and then carefully advancing the pawn to promotion. In this case, the position is simply drawn. Instead of the winning move a5, taking advantage of the pinned queen, what happens if white immediately plays bishop takes e5 check? After king takes e5 and king takes c4, we've transposed into a drawn rook-pawn ending, as after king d6, white's king cannot stop black's king from reaching the corner. After king b5, king c7, black's king rushes to the corner when the position is drawn. Even with a dark-squared bishop on the board, the game is drawn once the king reaches the corner. As we mentioned, there is no rush to capture black's pinned queen. Another move that appears to make progress for white is king takes c4. Unfortunately, black has the instructive defense, queen takes d4 check, forcing white's king away from the corner with king takes d4. Black is able to hold the draw just in time with king e7. After king c5, king d7, king b6, and king c8, white can prevent black's king from reaching the corner with king a7. But after king c7, black's king will simply move back and forth between c8 and c7. In order for white's king to eventually escape the h-file, white has to give up the b8 square, so black's king can simply move into the corner. Once again, the game is drawn. If we didn't find anything promising based upon black's knight and king aligned on the a1 to h8 diagonal, we may have considered another pin, bishop f4. Black has several ways to draw, but the most active solution is queen d3 check. Since king b2 would allow the fork, queen d4 check, winning the bishop, white is forced to play king b4. Once again, black has several good options, but one line is queen d6 check. If white plays king a5, black can play knight c6 check, revealing the queen's attack against white's bishop. And after king c3, queen d3 check, white is not making progress, and if anything, black is in control. This was quite an involved endgame journey, and I appreciate you joining me. In order to solve today's puzzle, we needed to find the simplification tactic queen takes e5 check, forcing queen takes e5 check, and bishop d4. After king f6, it was important to take advantage of black's pinned queen and not rush by making use of the tempo with a5, pushing our pawn one step closer to promotion. The rest of the puzzle focused on preventing black's king from reaching the promotion square, a8, and using our pawn and bishop together to accomplish this goal. Thanks for joining me for today's daily puzzle. Your puzzle-solving fun doesn't have to stop here. Check out our puzzles section with thousands of puzzles waiting to be solved. Until tomorrow, This is National Master Dane Matson, wishing you happy puzzle solving.